Welcome to Start Here, the interviews. It's a series where I talk to some of our customers who've not only had firsthand experience with our products, but are having firsthand experiences dealing with the challenges posed by all the risks facing our access control systems today. I'm your host, Sarah Bowling, and my guest today is Matt Netardus. He's from Security 101 in Hampton Roads, Virginia. And we'll be talking about where do you start when you're getting off Prox. Hi, Matt. Great to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sarah.
I'm super excited to talk to you today. This is kind of the first of our interviews, sort of where do we start interviews. And you are the only guy that I could imagine, being the guest for getting off Prox, because I know how passionate you are about it. So before we get into your whole story about and how passionate you are about Prox, tell us a little bit about you. Who do you work for? What do you do? What are you passionate about? Give us a little background.
Absolutely. So I work in the system design department of Security 101 in Hampton Roads. We're an electronic security integrator that focuses on integrated systems, open architecture hardware, and custom-built solutions, specifically for your enterprise end users, from healthcare to federal government, all the way down to your hair salon shop and property management.
Cool. How big you must have a bit of a team. How many people do you have in sales and apps engineering?
Right now, our team is just about 20 people. We just onboarded a couple, have a few more on the way as we're gearing up toward a big 2021. And we do have 4 people working on my side of the company in terms of creating those custom solutions and getting new product sets out for the market to solve problems for today and really the next 10 years.
Well, what about you? Like, how did you get into this business? How long, you're a young guy, but have you been how long have you been in the security industry, and what got you into the security industry? I want to know.
Yeah, I was actually trying to pick between going toward something more tradecraft and grad school, and just happened to stumble onto an opportunity with Security 101 as we opened up the Hampton Roads branch just about 7.5 years ago now. And got started on a little bit of everything. I did a little bit of sales, a little bit of engineering, a little bit of installing. And it was really the installation time that I spent early on 7.5 years ago that's given me a lot of the insight that I use now, especially as we look to design new solutions. And over the course of this new branch opening up, I've moved over and kind of focused on strictly engineering and system design, as we've been able to bring on more people to take care of the installations and a lot of the sales work, and that are really specialists in that.
Well, let's talk about your hands-on experience, because this is kind of what got us to the decision to have this conversation today. I know you've had, your hands on our products. You've installed a ton of Wavelynx readers. And of course, you've been at the forefront of transitioning customers off of legacy Prox and into other credential solutions, be it encrypted high frequency or even mobile. So let's talk about Prox cards first and foremost. Why are they so bad? Why all of a sudden everyone, in the world is invested in Prox cards? Why do we need to get rid of them? What's the problem?
Yeah, well, from my side as the design engineer, Prox is really the biggest thing keeping any of my designs from really benefiting an end user. I can design any kind of system on the back end, and it doesn't matter how many custom features or ease of use I build into their platform. If they then get a Prox reader or using proximity credentials, someone can really walk their way right in with a $10 copier they bought off of Amazon. And nothing that I did on the back end really matters at that point. My entire design is null and void.
So you've had firsthand experience with customers experiencing this, where they've come to you and they've said, we're getting card duplicates, people are copying cards, what's going on? What do we do?
Yeah, actually, it really started even on a less nefarious, but probably a larger problem side. I was out at a client site doing a walkthrough, and I had a key fob for my apartment, which of course is a Prox credential. I'm still working on them. And I was explaining to the end user how their same credentials could work on the reader. And as a example, I went ahead and I badged and I said, you'll do the same thing with a key fob as you would a key card. So I had them badge with their card, and then I badged with the fob, and it unlocked their door. And so me with my apartment key, all of a sudden had access to the restricted stairwell at that building that I'd never been to before. All because the same company that provided services for my apartment complex was the incumbent at that particular building. And they decided they had their one facility code. They had everyone starts at card 1. And so my card 192 was one of the cards that was currently active in their system. And it read the exact same. And now there's who knows how many cards that are out there that would work on that building. In and amongst the number of people who have copied it. I've copied my key fob for my apartment because I wanted to keep an extra fob in my office in case I lost one. I didn't want to pay the $25 fee. So now we've got multiple credentials out there that are all reading the same, and there's nothing that the end user can do to stop that.
So you step in with solution guy. How do you broach this subject with your customers, and how do you approach them with a solution and then sell them on it? Because obviously it means they have to replace something they've already bought, which is never a fun conversation. Replacing technology and replacing hardware, that's always the dollar. They see dollar signs and they don't usually pick up, your next phone call. So how do you approach this problem?
Yeah, so early on, a lot of it was really just focused around us educating them on the fact that, if you use this technology, then it really doesn't matter what access control system you're using, what software, what controllers, none of that really matters at that point. Because the point where the end user interacts with your system, you don't have full control over that. So you think you're handing out a restricted key, you're really just handing out a number. And they can copy that, they can share that. It can be copied by someone they don't even know. And it may be held onto by someone that they don't even know. Right. And so we started with that. There was some amount of migration off of that. A lot of it was still end users were hesitant because there is that pain of change where it does take some time to issue out new credentials. There is a cost to make that change. And for a while, there was very little focus on that. And there wasn't a lot of movement within the industry. Now, this is back, 6-7 years ago, prior to some of the changes that are happening now with more focus on encryption. So we ended up moving from just talking about it to anytime that we quoted out a new system, if the end user was currently using proximity, we'd give them a quote on here's what it would take to go encrypted, to go MyFair, to go with a higher frequency 13.56 card rather than your generic Prox card.
Is there a big difference? Like the first thing they're going to ask you. So is there a really big price difference between a Prox?
Yeah. And that was the best part about doing that quote is that wasn't necessarily there just to sell them on that, but it was there to kind of defray some of their worries that, well, if I go encrypted, that sounds really high end. I'm not the CIA, I'm not the NSA, I don't need to encrypt things. Granted, this was 7 years ago thinking. Right. Nowadays, your hair salon is going to be encrypting things. Everyone from the grocery store to the gas station, all the way up to higher end enterprise businesses understand that encryption is now a mandatory. But the feeling was that if you go to a higher frequency card or reader, you're going to be paying a lot more money. And nowadays that's just not the case anymore. Is there a cost delta? Yes, but it's minimal. And at the end of the day, if you can't go up and really do this right, why are we doing it to begin with?
Okay, so how are you? So you said that if you're quoting a customer and they're still asking for a Prox card, you'll give them an alternate quote that will show them the difference. And yes. From what you've explained to me, before this actual shoot of this interview, you've even taken it a step further, haven't you?
We have. So that helped to defray the worry that it was going to be this massive surcharge, but it didn't really get all of the movement that we are hoping for. So we started actually adding a deviation from standard design node. What that is that anytime that an user is making a request of us where we're going to need to do something in a non-standard or non-best practices way, we always write out a standard or a deviation from standard design note in their proposal. That way that end user knows, yes, we can support you. Yes, we want to be your partner, but we're the expert in this. We know what direction this needs to go to be successful. And you're requesting that we not follow that experience that we have to go this other direction. So that was us being a little bit more forceful rather than simply saying, hey, there's another option and it's not that much more. Now we're saying, okay, we're doing this, but it's really not the best way to do this. And I need you to know that. And we've started lately taking it another step forward, where not only will you need to have that in your proposal that this is a standard deviation, but if you want to do proximity, whether it's credentials or readers, you will have to have an on-file waiver of liability form, basically saying that you know that the proximity technology is compromised, that there is no inherent built-in security with it, and there's nothing that us as the integrator, there's nothing that we can do to help you. If you go with Prox, these liabilities and these risks are there, and nothing we do can stop them. We've recommended that you not do this. You are overruling us and deciding to do it. So therefore, you now need to sign that, we warned you, we can't help that, but you're going to take on that liability yourself.
Amazing. So the question is, how effective has this been? Has this really been a turning point for you with your customers? Have you really been able to eradicate Prox from some of your projects by doing this?
Yeah, so this was the single biggest thing that led to us actually being able to start doing presentations deeper into these organizations. Giving a second quote kind of worked to have a conversation, but at the end of the day, my initial point of contact can just decide not to forward that on. And there's really nothing that we can do about that. Putting in a deviation from standard design note, what are the chances that someone outside of my initial point of contact actually reads through my proposal? Probably not that high. But when there's a legal form and someone has to then sign that, that's going to risk management, that's going to department heads. And while that department head may have just looked at my final page of my proposal and looked at the cost and said, sure, and not really read the rest, they're going to read a waiver of liability form. And they're going to ask, hey, if this integrator is saying that they can't protect us by doing this, I don't understand this whole, we're installing security, but our security integrator is saying it isn't actually secure. Why are we doing that? Is there another option?
That's awesome.
So that has been a big shift since we started doing that fairly recently. There has been a high adoption of, okay, we're going to have to put this on pause right now and take another look at why are we doing it this way? What would it take to do it a different way? And what are our liabilities if we continue, which is really what we wanted to do, is just start that conversation.
That's awesome. And of course, now there's another conversation waiting for you in the wings as you start to migrate your customers to encrypted cards. You start to have that conversation about should they own their own encryption keys and really protect themselves from what the truth is, common key encrypted keys are also getting hacked as well. And so there's now the opportunity for customers to own encryption keys and have those managed and be able to have control over their ecosystem of devices, like what Leaf is trying to do, evangelizing that open standard for interoperability. So that's probably the next conversation you'll start having with your customers who are moving into that encrypted environment. But tell me about a couple of success stories. Tell me about a couple of customers, if you can, that you've taken through this process and you've seen success and where they are today, because I know you've got some really, really good ones to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we are in the process of finalizing some of the audits with a local healthcare organization. They are currently using proximity, as are almost every major healthcare organization in our particular area. So there's a lot of work left to do there. But one of the big things there is not just using the upgrading from proximity to a smart card for a security purpose, which is a huge benefit. But it's also the smaller things, like not having to worry about multiple people buying the same box of cards, not having to worry about that card existing in another ecosystem, and maybe a partner healthcare system issuing out the same range of Prox cards that then all work on your building. And now you've got people who have two cards, one from their parent healthcare system and one from you, and both cards work showing up as two different people within your system. That's a huge problem. The other benefit, especially as we go toward that Leaf CC route, is now you have that open architecture, it's interoperable, and you can use that card for more than just security. So you're taking that single investment and you're able to apply that cost basis toward a myriad of different solutions, many of which have nothing to do with security. And the tighter that you can form your logical security basis, that physical card, into more than just a physical card, the more that now that really becomes an investment in that employee and a business enablement system rather than just a electronic security system.
Game changer. I mean, and just to again reiterate the point, we have alternate solutions in the credential space to Prox, which is great. But when it comes to moving into this world of encryption, it can get really confusing to people as they learn this, right? So to be clear, any manufacturer of an encrypted smart card can issue a unique set of facility code bit format badge ID for that customer. But it's the encryption keys that protect that data. That's where we get into the conversation of, is this a common encryption key set that is shared unbeknownst to that one customer, on multiple facilities? Or is it an encryption key set that is owned and then again controlled by that customer, where they have, like you said, with this healthcare situation, now they've got the power to provision their own keys to whatever devices or applications they want within their Leaf ecosystem and know that they're completely and totally secure. It's like the antithesis of what you were dealing with, with your product environment. So you've come a really, really long way. Tell me, you've got another customer that's had a great success story. I'm not sure if you moved them into the Leaf environment or not, but I know you got them off Prox.
Yeah, so right now we're also working with Canon, and that's been a kind of multi-year phased movement from a legacy access control system that they had kind of reached the limits of. They were out of additional schedules and card holders and access rules. There was a limit to what they could do. So they'd really hit that wall there. So that forced that movement away, but it didn't force the movement initially with proximity. So that became a conversation that left just the security space and really entered into the cybersecurity space and the IT space, because now we're talking about not just upgrading your card, we're talking about giving you a card that you can use for other things. And that's really where that conversation really went. It didn't catch a whole lot of traction when it was just about from Prox to, from 125 kilohertz to 13.56 megahertz. That conversation really did not catch on that quickly. But once I was able to say, hey, you know what, this card can be more than just an access control card. You can do things with it. You can use different business systems and tie them all together and still have that single entity that you're giving that new employee. That's really where that conversation took off.
That's awesome. Have you had any experience yet starting to deploy mobile credentials? Have you started walking into the mobile Wild West?
We've gotten started with it. One of the best parts that I like personally is the ability for us to then use mobile from a maintenance and management perspective. So when a technician goes out to service a specific area, that may be an area that the end user has not issued out them individually a unique card. And that could be for many reasons. Maybe they have a long badging process. Maybe they just have a standard of not issuing physical cards to contractors, especially as a contractor may be out there for 2 hours, and the next time there might be a different service stack. So now you're going to have to badge basically our entire company. So they have standards against that. But with mobile phones, you can simply use that electronic credential. They can go out, get access to everything that they need. And the issuance is very, very quick, and you still have that complete security and management on the back end through the access control software.
It's a great use case, and we do see that a lot. Well, that's so cool. So what next? What's the next? I mean, I've outlined a couple of hurdles that I foresee, but what do you see as being the next challenge that you're going to face and try to make a real change the landscape when it comes to you're getting everybody off Prox, you're killing Prox. What's next? What's your next goal?
Yeah. So the very next thing that is on our list that we're already working on the same kind of waiver liability. We're not ready to launch it quite yet, but that will be coming this year, is moving from the WeGAN protocol to OSDP. So that is up next. I've got to solve the card issue. Once the card issue is solved and you're now using a secure card, now it's time to make that reader secure from the reader to the controller.
You just led me into our next topic. So why don't we do a part 2, Matt? I'll have you come back and we'll do a whole new segment on where do we start with going OSDP? Because
I'd be happy to.
I'll make you say it 10 times fast so that say it like you do in Halo. And and we'll talk about OSDP because that's another hot button topic, of course, and that's another area of risk that we want to address with our customers. So that's great. Let's make a part 2. And so we'll just end it here. Thank you so much for your input and your explanation about why we need to get off Prox. And you've also come so solution oriented. You've really taken us through a path on how you've come to a place where you think you're really getting some good traction and reaction from your customers. So where can we find you? I know people who are watching this are going to say, I want to do a liability waiver. I want to do this. If they want to talk to you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our design team has a holding email, which is norfolk@security101.com. And we also have a good amount of online content at security101.com. Our corporate team does a great job of putting out some good materials there, both with stuff like this, but also with audit procedures and stuff like that as well. So there's a lot of good content there.
And if they want to connect with you, are you on LinkedIn?
I am also on LinkedIn as well, Matthew Netardus, and under Security 101.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. You're an amazing resource and a great guy to chat with. And I look forward to part 2 talking about OSDP. So I will see
Looking forward to it
soon. Thanks, Matt. Bye.
Thank you.